flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Rebecca, if you'll call the roll.
Director Cicada?
Here.
Director Underhill?
Here. Okay, and we'll go on to item number 2, which is public comment. And I cannot believe.
Becca, do we have video?
I cannot believe the amount of public for an external relations committee meeting. Usually it's, yes, that's great. And so we're open for public comment. So if any of the public would like to address the board, feel free, and you can just click that.
Good afternoon. My name is Francisco de la Cruz. I'm a Valley Springs resident. And the kind of public comment that I like to share with you is that, as I understand external affairs, you all connect with the community and keep them informed. I commented at the Valley Springs public meeting that whatever attempts you made and whatever outreach you had going on for this effort, it seems to have failed because of the reactions that we're getting. People completely surprised, uninformed, misinformed, operating on rumors, etc. And so one of the things that is missing in our estimation is the public's understanding of the do nothing, leave everything alone, or let the protests succeed and leave the rates the same. I don't think they understand what the impacts are. I think we clearly need to communicate. These are the projects that are not going to get done because the rates cannot support them. We need to let them know where those projects are, what the functions of that particular project are supposed to be when it's in place, how they benefit, and what they lose if that project is not completed.
So
I just, yeah.
this is an agendized item. Yeah, so go ahead.
Going into item number 4A, which is the rate communication strategy. So I think your comments are completely valid,
Yeah.
and I understand, but they will.
Okay, well, as long as it's recognized that the strategy didn't work, we need a different way to get the word out more deeply.
All right. If you'll just.
I'll concede that.
Hold off until 4A.
No problem.
You can comment anything not on the agenda.
Right.
Fine. Is there an agenda item that shows where a district-wide dashboard will be possible? I know you're working on a customer dashboard. That's a different issue. I'm talking about a comment made by your consultant that said, oh, I'll be back in a year and we'll compare how you guys are doing versus what the plans were. I think a year is too long. I think we need a district dashboard that says, look, we estimated our usage for this month was going to be so many 100 cubic feet. It's low or it's high, whatever. Are you guys going to do a district dashboard?
All right, so, that is another
Comment, all right.
question. But,
All right.
Any other public comment?
I'm
Do you have
fine.
anything else?
I have a lot. That's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
That sounds like it'd be great for our next, when we start talking about the rate study.
We'll be asking for future agenda items. So, any other public comment? Please step up to the.
No, I'm new to the area, so, hey, Michael Rogers, I've been in Valley Springs for 10 months, I think, so. Glad to
So
be
Mike,
here.
I hate to interrupt you here. So the way this works is if we have an item on the agenda, we'll get to comment on that item during that item. The public comment period that's open right now is just for items that are not on the agenda. And we are going to talk about the rate study in the first item on the agenda. So this is just if you have a comment that's not on, for an item that's not on the agenda.
Yeah, so my question is about the the merger of the district, you know, that decided to consolidate some years ago. And it's a general question about when you decided to do that and what the stated goal was at the time. Do you feel that it has achieved what its stated goal was?
So we
When
can
you
only give a
decide- 'cause I
brief
understand that
response. Yeah, because that's,
You know,
it's
so
not
is
on the
that
agenda, so
related
we
to-
can give a brief response and then we can agendize that for a different meeting.
okay.
And the short answer is it wasn't one consolidation. The districts absorbed many different
Right.
service areas over decades.
Well,
And so each,
Just
you
curious
could,
how you would grade yourself and
Can
how
you,
that process is.
Can you
it
tell
depends
a
on
little
which
bit-
one.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of them have gone, been very successful. Others, we could look back at and go, oh, we should have done that one differently. But it depends on which consolidation we're talking about.
Michael, can you just tell them a quick history of, when CCWD was formed and
Well,
why?
right now, it's not,
Yeah, we could, why don't we put that on the
Yeah.
agenda for a future?
and we,
Or
love
we
to-
can
Okay, yeah.
After the
if
meeting
you'll-
Yeah, we can talk about that offline
Yeah,
as well.
and tell you how it was
You
created.
know, I'm still in the information gathering, trying to. work
Right.
out
Yes.
how we
Right.
got to this point.
We just have strict Brown Act rules we have to follow, and on one hand, that can be frustrating. On the other hand, we need to be sure we're in compliance. So that's why we're a little cautious about talking about things that aren't on the agenda.
Okay. So if there's no other public comment, we'll go on to item number 3, which is the approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minute.
And second, MSP. So now, here we get into
Now we're ready.
the meat of it, and we have new business 4A, external affairs update and rate communication strategy, and this will be covered by Mr. Winkler.
Yeah,
But Michael,
Yes.
is it,
Well-
I just want to ask, is it possible that we could hear what they have to say before we do our discussion?
No, Cindy, we have, as Michael's saying, we have strict,
There's no reason why we couldn't.
if it's relevant to the agenda item, the
Right.
directors can manage that
oh,
however. they
yeah,
want
no,
to.
and here
Yeah.
we are gonna discuss.
Right, I know, and
Yeah.
I know both of them had, I don't know about Mike so much probably, but I know Francisco does. So that way during our discussion, we can know to talk about it. A couple things that he mentioned, I have on my list, but it's probably gonna be better for tomorrow's meeting,
Mhm.
but sometimes I would like to hear from the public before we start discussing, because we may not
Sure,
come up
that's,
with.
that's up to the chair.
Well, your call.
Well, no, it's not my, it is my call only because I'm trying to, follow the agenda and, establish rules and regulations or policy on conducting a meeting. And I understand, and what we have to do is more of an education, letting our customers, ratepayers know what they have to do.
But this is really from my knowledge, is what I was kind of hoping to have before, but I understand, that's okay.
So
And
my update is gonna be fairly brief, and then we can get to questions. So I can do it that way, or we can do questions first. Chair.
Well, if Cindy, you feel that you want to hear questions,
It's your guys' call. You're gonna have a brief update.
Yeah.
We'll hear from them and then you and I can talk about, I mean, this is
That sounds
external relations, not the open meeting. So some of them may kind of cross over, but,
Yeah.
but this is the, in my opinion, this is gonna be more about our communications during the rate study, right? So, okay, same page, go for it.
Okay, so, the update since the last external relations committee, I guess, man, that seems like a long time. Because a lot has happened, but because that was July, right? Sorry, what's that?
July 20.
July 20th, right. So the following week is when the 218 notices went out. And that triggers the 45-day, right, the countdown to the public hearing. To Francisco's earlier point, I can address that in my update a little bit. We're right now, one of the things we're working on is going back through the slide deck that we used for our community workshop presentations. and providing some explanation on some of the slides. Then we're going to provide that information to the public. And in there, we talk about a lot of, you know, the public outreach that we did prior to the Prop 218 notice going out, going back as far as October when we did the Prop 218 101, for lack of a better term, workshop with the board. And then the 3 town hall meetings that we had in the spring, where at each of those town hall meetings, we discussed the fact that we were in the middle of the rate study. At that point, we didn't have the details yet, but we knew there were going to be substantial rate increases. And so we made that clear to the people that attended those town hall meetings, and we implored them to come to our finance committee meetings and our board meetings, where we were at the time talking, you know, we were still in budget development for this fiscal year, and finalizing the 5-year financial plan. And so we really tried to get people to come to those meetings and hear more about the details of the budget and the rates. As we know, nobody came. We've done, you know, social media posts over that period of time, and a lot of other just, you know, meetings with community organizations or individuals. The fact of the matter is, this is not a unique experience to CCWD or our first time going through this. Most people don't pay attention to water district outreach until the Prop 218 notice hits the mailbox. And that's understandable. That's not a criticism of people. You know, the general public are busy and don't
That's
have
just
time
the way it is.
to focus on this. It just usually doesn't really get the attention, even if we're talking about it a lot and we're trying to get public participation. It doesn't get anywhere near as much of attention as the 218 notices, because we also included it in the billing statements in May and June. Those announcements were made on the bills as well. I'm probably forgetting some other things, but we did a lot of outreach the first half of this year to try to engage the public in this process. And, you know, so, and then this, we know the 218 notice is what tends to get everybody's attention. So since then, the 218 notice was received, we got some initial pushback on holding the public hearing at 1 o'clock. And so we changed the time, and we sent out a follow-up notice to clarify to everybody that the time will be at 5:30, not 1 o'clock. And then we did stakeholder outreach. We had a lot of different meetings earlier in August, and then we did our 3 community workshops last week. So we did Evans Pass on Monday last week, Copper on Wednesday, and Valley Springs on Thursday. And now we're doing a bunch of follow-up from that to, if there were folks that had questions that weren't answered, we're responding to them. Other people we're having individual meetings with, at one right after this. And then also, like I said, the slide deck itself, people have asked for that. Some of the slides in that presentation weren't necessarily self-explanatory. They were intended to be delivered with the explanation that we were providing in the presentation. So the process we're in right now is essentially drafting an annotated version of the slide deck to make sure that the explanation goes along with the slide. And we're hoping, we're pushing as hard as we can. There's, you know, we're all trying to contribute to that document. We're pushing as hard as we can to try to get it out. My goal is to be able to hand it to board members tomorrow at the board meeting. We still have some work to do on it, but so we're hoping to finish it up by then. I think hopefully that will be a helpful document for people, because I think we got through to a lot of people in those community workshops, and I think there were other folks that either because we had to go through a lot of information in a short period of time, so it may not have been enough time for people to absorb it all, or we got, you know, in some instances, we didn't get to all the slides in the presentation because of questions that took us in other directions, which is fine too. So this way we can provide all that information with the explanations in one document. We're also working on updated frequently asked questions document. We're going to do a separate one just on salaries and benefits because there's a lot of misinformation circulating. I heard yesterday that the board is going to give me $50,000 pay raises every year for the next 5 years.
Oh, dream on.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you in advance for that.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that's out there though, right? There's no basis in fact or reality. It's just stuff that gets made up and then it finds a life of its own online. So we're seeing a lot of that out there. So hopefully by pushing out this slide deck, updating, providing more frequently asked questions, just trying to get as much accurate information out there as possible, we can hopefully kind of spin the tide of the rumors and the misinformation that are circulating. So that's the big effort that we have underway right now. In addition to, like I said, we're continuing to get, email questions or phone calls or requests for meetings, and we're getting to all of them. So we're doing as much of that as we can over the coming weeks. And I think that about covers the update. Oh, dashboard. It's a really interesting idea. It's something I think we'll take into consideration because there are ways that we report out on some of that information already, either through our committees, so finance committee, engineering committee. I don't think in finance committee, we actually report out on production waters. We do report the financial line item for revenue from water sales and revenue from rates. We don't report out treatment
Michael,
plant production.
you and I talked and I had suggested we do something like what he's asking for and nothing so in depth, just is. Here's what we projected, here's where we're at, we're looking good or not looking good, just that simple. And every time we put something on there, I think it should always be, please attend our meetings for more information.
Yeah.
You know,
And so we do cover some of what you were discussing in those different, so like our engineering committee meetings, we have a detailed update on all of our capital improvement program projects. And finance committee, we talk about where we are compared to budget, where we are, in terms of the revenue and the expenditures for that point in the fiscal year. So we have that information and we do report out on it, but consolidating it in a way that's very accessible and user friendly is something that we could, and we do, as you two know in particular, longtime members of the finance committee, we're constantly trying to adapt those reports to make them easier to understand. And I think we've made progress on that front over the years. But we're always trying to, respond to suggestions on how it might be more easily understood by the public in particular. And so we're open to all those suggestions, but I think the dashboard idea is an interesting one. I think we should think about ways to provide that information. Like I said, it's there. It's just a question of putting it together in a way that's easier to understand.
We do not need to overthink it. If this goes through, the ratepayers, the owners of this public agency need to know just the basics, something as simple, a quarterly progress update of where the income is in relation to what we said it would be for our increase, and also the project status. Where are we on these projects that we all have to pay, millions of dollars for? So, and it could just be this big. And if
So,
you want information, you call or you come to the finance committee meeting. End of story.
We
That's-
do, that information is in our monthly financial.
Simple.
Yeah.
But we, as Michael is saying, we talk about it and ask and plead with the public to come to our meeting. And it's not, we're not seeing anything until we put dollar signs on our communication and look, this is a good idea, a good representation of what.
I'm gonna make sure this gets done. And exactly as simple, if I do nothing else for the next 4 years, if this rate study passes, that will be put there.
Yeah, and so,
It's
to
not
that-
rocket science,
it's
it's not
not.
websites.
but to that point, though, we
Good.
do have that information in the financial reports that the financial committee sees every month. Or the finance committee sees every month. And we do have that information on the CIP projects that the engineering committee sees. So it's just a question of whether there are ways to make it more accessible to the public, but again, the information is there.
But as I've kind of complained about, especially in the beginning, you have to hunt and peck for your information. I would much rather we come up with this nice little simple plan than Francisco pulling it out on his own and having his Facebook website. Here's how CCWD is doing. And you know, that would probably happen, not for you per se, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Happy
we
to,
want to stay ahead of
happy
it.
to-
and-
like I said, we're always open to suggestions on how we can make it more accessible to people.
Well, in fact, we're a little bit ahead of the game on this for that, but we will definitely make that something, I'm sure, the
Mhm.
board members.
Oh,
will-
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and then, but I thought Francisco, you also made another really good point about people understanding the impact of no rate increase. And I've tried to make that point in each of our community meetings. I know it was probably, might have not been able to make it over some of the criticism.
Yeah,
But the point, it's also kind of a fine line, because I don't want to come across as, threatening people or trying to use fear tactics to not, submit a protest letter. So there's a bit of a fine line there. But I also am trying to be clear about the implications of not implementing this rate increase. They're immediate. So we have a budget deficit this year.
Yeah.
And so it's not just project costs down the road. It's severe budget cuts that are going to impact service this year and immediate.
That was not, that's one
Okay.
of the.
Right.
Would
You
you
want me
want
to-
to come up to the microphone,
Yeah.
we'll
One
go
of,
ahead and do
one
it
of the-
this way.
one of the points I wanted to make is, it seemed to me that you prepared the presentation for public consumption when it was prepared for board consumption. I think it was a little too sophisticated. It just needed to say, look, fellas, it's like a budget. I have a savings account. I'm digging into the savings account to pay for my operating
Yeah.
expenses. And I can't keep doing that because that was gonna pay for my long-term stuff, but I can't do that because you're not giving me enough money to pay for all the stuff now. If I continue along this route, I won't be able to pay for any of this stuff that I've got listed out for 50 years or 5 years. I won't be able to pay for any of it. And we're gonna be talking about perhaps the state coming in and saying, looks like you guys can't run the show. Looks like you guys are gonna go bankrupt. Looks like we're gonna have to come in here and show you how to do it.
Right.
Very real possibilities. Pretty much not made up. You're not trying to scare anybody. You're saying, look, the number 1 + 1 always equals 2. And when you subtract 3 from 2, you get in the negative. We're in the negative. And we can't continue to do that.
Right.
One of my previous lives, I was a results manager for Pacific Telephone when it was Pacific Telephone. We had 73 measurements. I came up with key focus items, key service items, and we measured 246 third level and above managers. And that set their pay. That's it. So I know a little bit about data gathering. I know a little bit about statistical analysis. I know a little bit about organization functions. I have a master's in organization development. I can be a resource, but you got to be willing to work with someone that has some ideas that might not flow as smoothly as you'd like them immediately. Because we've got to get this simplified so people understand, hey, we own this place and you guys are running it for us and you're telling us you can't do it the way we're paying you. We either got to start using it, et cetera.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Just
and that-
Respond to one of the comments you made about how the material was prepared and how it was presented. And you said Michael was directing this towards the board level. I mean, that was the board level. And that what he has to do.
I know that.
That's what he has to do.
I know that.
But then taking it down another step is where we need to have major modifications.
You got to get it down to
Yeah, yeah.
your audience.
And
The
I-
audience,
I follow you
Yeah.
and I understand.
It's
and
a
I
great
think Michael
point.
does too.
No, I appreciate the suggestions and we are open to all of your suggestions. Please keep
And
coming to these
The
meetings.
other,
But real quick, if I could, just because I think we get, sometimes staff are in a bit of a, no-win situation, right? Because if we simplify it that much and we only provide that level of analysis, then we get a lot of criticism for not explaining what the cost increases are or what the project increases are. It was one of the things that happened in Valley Springs was I kept getting criticized for not sharing enough information while not being allowed to get to all the information, because we had the information there. It was just not, we just weren't actually allowed to get through the presentation. So we're trying to, that's a constant, fine line that we're trying to navigate is how do we simplify it and make it as accessible to the general public as possible, but at the same time have enough information so that people can see what's really driving this.
You gotta go to Rancho Calaveras, La Contenta. Those neighborhoods have high concentration of very, not supportive. Okay, you gotta win them
It's
over.
everywhere.
Right.
You gotta-
Yes, and that is where we had gone in our prior rate
We had
studies.
we had
and
a
we
town hall in
meetings
Rancho
and-
Calaveras
And we
6
just
months
knew
ago.
that we were going to have too many people, so we couldn't go to the Rancho Calaveras. Now, if we could break it down into 2 meetings, for example, and make it a little easier.
I think Mr. Jeff has a lot of work on this. I think he represents that area, right?
Mhm.
He's the guy that's gotta get on.
If I can make a comment regarding this communication. I think staff were following what the state law is with Prop 218, and that's obviously we have to do that. And they call it a cost of service study. When we talk to our customers, perhaps you could say something like, your rates may increase. We have to do a cost of service study. What does that mean? It means we evaluate our expenses and are we gonna have enough costs? That's simple. But if all they see is cost of service, and that's what we see on the agenda, half the people may not even know what it is.
Yeah.
So if even on that notice that we send out, or when we were back in spring doing this, well, we're doing a cost of service or a rate study. It doesn't, because everybody has their lives. We're all really busy.
Yeah.
Now, if you said your rates may increase, now you've caught their eye. And
Yeah.
the other thing to all this is, I would like to request at whatever meeting needs to, we need to have this policy written down based on all the issues that we see happening today. And I'm not blaming any one person. This is a huge task, but we don't want to do it this way again. And I
Sorry,
think
what policy?
I want a policy that says when we go to do a rate study, this is the verbiage we use when we go to a town hall. These are how many town halls we have. This is when we start a town hall. And I wanted the town hall started last year when we talk about it, to let people know, we may increase rates. We are doing a study to see if we need to do that. It's that type of play on words, we don't want it to play on words, and, cost of service study to some people doesn't ring.
Yeah,
You know?
because we could also go into the policy handbook and look to see where we could make an addition.
Yeah,
And make an addition, Cindy.
yeah, and that way you don't have to reinvent the wheel in 5 years from now. It's you guys have it written, you learned all the things that we don't want to do, and we're probably learning things that we do want to do. Nobody's at fault. It's a lot of work. And you have a lot of people putting in the parts, and sometimes it comes out good, sometimes it doesn't. Learning by, let's say, mistakes, what makes it really successful? You've never lost anything. You're still going to be successful because you learn by those and put it to work going forward.
Mhm.
But, let's hear what
Okay,
Mike says now.
Yeah. Would you like to come and address us?
Mike,
please?
we have you come up front here because the people online couldn't hear you.
Yeah, so, and I appreciate the need for process improvements and, have a consistent, repetitive process. I think the thing that I felt was missing from the presentation, and maybe it was buried in there and there were snippets of it, is really what austerity measures that as an organization that you've taken. When you're attempting to inflict pain on your consumer, your customers, what have you,
We're
They-
inflicting pain on ourselves also.
We're not intending
they
to
want to
inflict
understand that you are also sharing in the pain. And here's the
Right.
things that we did. Let me give you Michael, 3 bullets, 5 bullets that said,
Oh, I think we had 4 slides on that, actually. We had those
but
slides.
we
just
really,
didn't get to them.
and I don't know that you even got to those at Valley
No,
Springs.
we
It
didn't
was
get
a-
to 'em,
It was,
yeah.
it was a zoo and
Right.
and
We
I
did have
felt-
some
I
slides on
felt
that, yeah.
like it was a missed opportunity because you couldn't get through the material. I didn't think that people allowed you to, because I'm a detail guy. I didn't mind all the slides. But
No,
apparently some just want the high level stuff, but I don't mind the detail and I appreciate the level of effort that went in putting that together. And I thought, personally, I felt it was important for me. But to me, I think you really want to try to make a better effort of explaining to people what austerity measures you've made, what trade-offs you've made, where cost cutting has occurred, where we bid a project or we had a project and we were able to save money here by
Yeah.
doing X, Y, and Z. We did it this way instead and we saved the district, whatever. So that would be my recommendation is to
yeah,
maybe
I appreciate
help
that.
share with us, what pain you might also be experiencing.
Yeah.
And where you maybe have saved us some money in the both short term or long term. So,
Yeah, so you were there, at the end of Habib's portion of the presentation, I got back up and there, because those slides that you're talking about weren't very far after that. And so what our plan was, we knew we were probably not going to make it through the whole presentation.
right.
We did want to try to get through some of those some of those slides as to what the major cost drivers were and what our cost saving
Yeah, there
efforts
was-
have been.
There was like
And we just didn't.
12 of us at the end there. And it actually, when we got down to the,
Yeah, we had some really thoughtful
we
discussions
actually had
there.
a pretty good back and forth
Yeah.
going, but for a while it was just zings and arrows and was not
Right.
very productive.
Which is fine. We need to hear it from, we
Understand.
need to give everybody an opportunity to provide their input. But we do have some of that information. So that's why I'm looking forward to putting out this slide, presentation.
At the
'cause
end of
it'll
the
be in
day,
there.
whatever happens, and I've told, shared this with my colleague here, the economics aren't going to change.
Right.
We still, as an organization, as the public, are faced with this tremendous challenge that I was unaware of before I came up here. And I'm learning a lot now, but
Yeah.
the economics aren't going to change. This is
There might be a
got
board member availability.
significant challenges ahead of you, and I thank you all for your.
Appreciate that, Mike.
This would be one of those, like, when you have your written policy. If you guys had the presentation, and I know this would be really tough, but I listened to every one of them. Very concise, not the detail yet, 15 minutes. And then when somebody asked a question, you refer back to whatever slide you didn't get to see that could explain it in detail, because you got their attention.
Right.
After 15, 20 minutes, and I was on there listening, so it was like, okay, now, all we're hearing is blah, 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 when it comes to a lot of numbers, right? Like, that's all they're listening to for a long time. So that would be a lesson learned. Let's make it 20 minutes and then have all your slides, but know where they relate to when somebody
Yeah.
asks a
And
particular question.
we did, I think we learned that lesson. Each of them were different.
Yeah.
Right, because I think what ended up happening in Ebbets Pass was people ended up just asking questions. So it took us a long time to get through the presentation, but it wasn't just
Yeah.
us presenting, there was
Right.
dialogue, which was
Back and
fine.
forth.
And Copper was
Everybody
very
laughed.
interesting because, well, no, because people weren't, and there wasn't much of that. And so, and then, Russ got up and said, let's get to questions even before we were done with the
Yeah.
presentation, which was fine. And so we were actually going to use that model that was our plan for Valley Springs was, hey, the way it went in Copper last night worked pretty well. Let's keep the presentation short and and then get to questions. We don't need to finish our presentation. We'll
Only
get to
10
those slides
minutes,
over the
right.
course of the question. But it took us 20 minutes just to get through the first 2 slides.
Yeah.
So, because the questions came immediately, and that's fine. I'm not, like I said, we do community meetings to hear from the community. And so, that's how that community wanted to express its opinions. And so,
I haven't gotten to the Valley Springs meeting yet. I
yeah,
did-
so,
Well, I was up in Arnold and
yeah.
did the Copperopolis, but
There's,
Well, I
there's,
live-
it's
you
no
guys are one
secret.
of them, so.
It's no secret that there's a lot of
Right.
frustration
Tough.
out there. I think and I know you didn't mean it this way, Mike, probably, but I think one of the misperceptions out there is that we are actually trying to inflict some harm on the community or something like that. And the truth, it couldn't be further from the truth.
They think you're cool.
Right.
It's worse.
And it couldn't be further from the truth.
I
Really,
understand.
what drives us is what's best for the community.
Exactly.
And even if these rate increases are big, and they are big, we're not shying away from that. We're just motivated and fixated on what is best for the community, because does it help our community if we don't fund the water district and the service is not reliable, or it's not safe, or it's not available? That's a bigger impact on our community. And that's what we're trying to, there's definitely voices out there that are, claiming a monopoly on caring about the community. And that can be frustrating, frankly, from staff's perspective, because of how much we care about this. And, and so that, is a constant narrative that we're trying to combat, and in certain spaces, especially certain, insulated parts of social media, we're not going to win that battle. But I think most people recognize where we're coming from.
Consider having tours of your projects so people get the firsthand, oh my God, I had no idea these tanks were so huge and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Once they realize, I had no idea you had 6 plants that you do the poop treatment on. I thought there were, let them, because my sense is the community has no idea, or a very poor idea, of what a water district does. All they say is, 2-month bill. It's higher. They have no idea.
Well, and they don't know, because I was one of those when I first moved here in 2004. All my life, I never thought about it. I turned on my water, it was there. I flushed my toilet, no problem. So when I started working where I did, I just went, huh? And it all clicks. And that is something we need to do. We should have like 2 a year of those kinds of, like what UWPA does with where that water comes from. But one of the things that I took away, I think with everything that's going on in our country, costs going up so high, and now this one, I think we've pushed people over the edge. And I get it, because I'm dealing with that, as most of you probably are, with homeowners insurance and the wildfire.
Oh, yeah.
We can't control that. And it's ridiculous. And when you don't have control of something, it's freaking scary. And what are you going to do when you only have this much money? Some of these people here are blessed, and it's not going to be a bother for them. But for most everyday people, myself including, it means that we don't get groceries. And look at how expensive groceries are. So anyhow, they don't mean to say that you guys are the bad guy or we're the bad guy.
Oh, some of them do.
They're just,
Well, yeah,
but it's still, you guys, it's a desperation of, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? Some
Yeah.
of them can't go out and work. Social Security doesn't get
We
a
get-
50% boost like what we're asking for.
We'll get 3% in January.
Exactly.
I think those are-
And
Yeah.
so, I personally think we need to do a little bit more.
Okay, all right. And I agree, Cindy, that,
I'm saving it for.
informing our customers and giving this opportunity. But what we really need to work on as part of that is, how do we get this across? How do we communicate with that? Because we can talk about Facebook, we can talk about Nextdoor, we can talk about press releases, but it boils down to the fact that I didn't hear that.
Mhm.
You did what?
Right.
Where was it? I didn't know anything about it. And we're sitting up here saying, this is how we have to communicate. How do we really communicate?
The other thing that I think CCWD is not getting an A+ in, the messaging shouldn't be just digital. Because where I'm at, my internet is terrible, and it's AT&T if you're hearing, it's the worst. Compared to, what is that, their Hughes network? Oh, that's really the worst.
Comcast.
But, and then you're also looking at, that Murphy's area. I don't know if it's full Calaveras County, but Murphy's area is considered the highly disadvantaged, not a regular disadvantage. Right, severe, that's it. So how are these people now, obviously they're not CCWD, enforcement is different. But you have pockets of these disadvantaged
Yeah.
severely, and they can't have internet. So now where are they supposed to see? So as difficult as this would be for staff, but we have operators in the different areas. I think we should have all of our agendas posted at whatever grocery stores in their community, their post office, sometimes post office doesn't. But get back to the basics, and I believe it's still a Brown Act that you're supposed to post it somewhere, or whatever. It just, I think we need to do more of that. We all get focused on this digital stuff, or like this. Not everybody has that.
Right.
So we've got to get to an A+ in that area instead of a C, in my opinion.
Okay. And I think one other thing I'd like to touch on, so you made some really good points earlier. And to the point about people understanding what we do, I think that's one piece of it, and that's an important piece of it, and we'll do more on that front. I think the people also, trying to educate people as to how the water district is financed. And Francisco, I like the way you broke it down earlier, just in terms of, framing it in terms of a household budget. But I think part of what we see out there right now is, well, this is gonna hurt some people, so why would you do it? And that lack of understanding as to how we have to fund the district is, to me, because really the question is, well, from our perspective, for people that do understand how a district is funded, what's the alternative? And if the alternative is worse, then are we really inflicting pain on the community, or are we saving the community from additional pain that otherwise would have been inflicted? And so just kind of trying to reframe it to what, the reality of water agency financing is not, it's not an interesting topic to some people. To some of us in the room it is, but it's not the kind of thing that people carve out time out of their day for the most part to read and understand. But it really kind of comes down to the fundamental job that CCWD has right now, which is financial responsibility. And that might mean, raising rates to a point where it's, we have an affordability issue, but what's the alternative? What if we don't? I think that's the next question that a lot of people are not asking right now. Although I also want to point out, we've also received a lot of positive feedback from our community meetings, and that gets lost in the negative, the vocal opposition that's out there. But we have had a lot of really thoughtful, positive discussions with people as well.
I'd like to know, because in this whole process, how many protest letters have we received?
I think we're at 300.
And
Metric you should publish daily.
Yeah.
You
so
should
the other thing is, I thought
publish it
that
daily.
all protest letters were supposed to be counted in front of the public at the hearing. That's what
No.
the PUD and them do.
Not necessarily. They counted the ones that they received in advance. The ones they count at the hearing are the ones that came in at the hearing.
Okay, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna allow those.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to. Up until the public hearing is closed, we will accept
Okay,
protest
good.
letters. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and there'll
Because,
be,
one of the words that you used that I just really got me was corrupt.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
That is just really,
Totally doesn't understand at all the
Right.
situation. Clearly does not understand.
Yeah.
It's like saying, cut your nose by spices. You don't understand what you're doing.
well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate your thoughtfulness, because I think a lot of people had that, might have that initial reaction, but not everybody takes the time to look at it, objectively, and so I appreciate your thoughtfulness on that. It's because I think a lot of people stop at that point. But real quick, if I could just touch on, because that was something I wanted to mention in my update. Because there's some confusion about protests, or there's accusations of, lack of transparency. We do count the votes. People are assuming that because CCWD counts the votes, that it's somehow, tainted. We count the votes, but we keep a master tracking list. So everybody that submits a protest letter will be able to verify that their protest was counted.
do we keep a log
Yeah,
That's what he's talking about.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
even that, people can verify that their protest was received and counted. And, just the speculation out there that
Yeah.
we're somehow shredding protest letters to me is just so unthinkable that, I mean, it's literally be like a criminal act that would happen in this
Here's
building.
what I can say.
Beyond the pale.
So nobody has to count.
Acknowledgement that you got their protest.
Huh.
So they have confirmation that they received it.
Yeah,
Now, what would that take?
that
Oh,
would be
Yeah, but
complicated.
seeing it all together though is really where it's gonna count.
Right.
If you have a roster with their last name or their APN maybe, so it's private.
Or address.
Or
yeah,
address.
absolutely.
And we counted it, and so the number of names received will match the number we're saying.
Right.
And somebody could just go look it up, and we can put it on the website, we can put it at the
Right.
hearing or whatever.
One of my concerns right now, honestly, is because I think because of that speculation that we're somehow so corrupt that we wouldn't count all the protest letters, there are groups that are collecting them themselves, which to me presents a risk for that group or for the people that are going that route, because we don't control that, obviously. We can only count the letters that we receive, and the safest way to do that is either put it in the in the mailbox or deliver it here in person.
Or
If
bring
you're
it to
trusting a
the-
third party to then deliver that to us and we don't get it, we can't count that vote. We have no way to verify that it was ever
That would be a
delivered.
message to put where it says how to protest, here's how we prefer. If you give it to somebody else to turn in, we have no control of that,
Right.
and I mean, there's nothing we can do on that, just like you said, no control.
Publish the ones we see. I'm telling you, it's gonna be the biggest thing that's gonna
Yeah.
change something around, because my response has been, look, even if it gets to court, don't you think you're gonna have all the actual copies and they're gonna submit it as evidence and you're gonna lose? Why are you making such a noise about something that's so easily disproved?
Right.
I mean, you guys keep everything, you log everything. It gets into court, you're gonna be able to prove it and you lose. So move on.
Yeah.
But if you publish to date, received and verified, boom,
Mhm.
and done,
In fact, that should be fairly easy to do, because you're already keeping a log, just post that log up every morning or before somebody goes home.
We only
Sorry,
got 3 weeks or so.
IT, but.
yeah, yeah. Let's,
Yeah.
let's finish this.
See if they can.
Let's finish it,
let's-
right? I mean, I can tell you bandwidth is in short supply these days, and we've pushed staff really hard over
Okay,
this
and-
last couple of months,
Yeah.
so. It may sound easy, but it may not necessarily be that easy. It never
But
is.
the priority is the
Um,
difference.
Is it a priority though?
Yeah,
And
it
I
is.
mean, is that particular item a priority? Because I don't know that it really adds
You
a whole
have
lot.
2 men in the IT department, whoever's doing the roster, give it to them. I mean, it literally should only take them 5 minutes to post it on the website. They've created the link to it. Actually, it should be the first thing that pops up, just like the rate study pops up. Click here for more info, right here, protest letters received to date. It'll take them 15 minutes to set up, and every day it should only be 3 minutes.
Because we are counting them as they come into this building.
Somebody's logging them,
As
right?
they are validated, right?
Yeah.
So we have a
Okay, so-
process and we have multiple
Do
people.
you have a
involved.
count as of, do you have a count as of yesterday?
Yeah.
Posted. Yeah.
But what we're asking for and what Francisco's recommending is put either the APN address or something up there, and I think that's the key. Try to see 328 and pull his mine in there. That's right. And if that's what we're trying to do, I mean, that's transparency. That's what we want.
What I'd like to do is change the lack of support to, oh my God, we can't risk our generational. So,
I agree.
okay, that's my objective, is change the whole thing. Oh my God, we should have been a little bit more receptive.
Yeah, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
We got-
with the hearing.
Well, we can try, but we can
Well,
try.
I think it is, I think some of that, I appreciate that. I think some of that is happening. Some of that is out there. There's there are groups that are just adamantly opposed, and frankly, I hope I'm not overstepping here, but the ones that are loudest in opposition tend to also be the ones that aren't listening. And so there's just there's only so much that we can do about that. I've reached out to some of those groups. I've reached out directly to the organizers of some of those groups and said, hey, I'd be happy to meet with you and explain why we feel like we need to do this and why we think this is actually what's best for the community, and understanding the impacts, and I get no response. So we do get a lot of response from people who are much more thoughtful about what is actually going on. it's the loudest opposition that tends not to respond or listen.
Agreed.
So, just one quick comment. You know, as I understand, the part of the economics is the large geography and the small relative number of ratepayers that you have. So these things tend to be exponential because the way the math works. And I would encourage you to try to supercharge that customer assistance program some way. And I know legally there's certain things you can't do, but I would ask that you try to be creative and think about the folks that are living on the margins. You know, they're not thinking 3 years or 5 years out. They're thinking 30 days. You know, that's, you know, they're not thinking long term. And so anything you can do creatively to try to supercharge that program, I would encourage you to do that.
Can
Am I
I
clear
ask you
that
guys a question?
We have that coming in the next finance meeting, right?
We are gonna talk about it at the next finance committee meeting. So one thing we talked about, gosh, it must have been a year ago now at a finance committee meeting and you know, I think other things got in the way, so we didn't really pursue it necessarily. But one thing that, not a lot, but a few other water agencies have done, and I'm curious to get your guys' impression of this, is you create sort of a voluntary option for people who can afford to, even if it's just round up, you know, and add 50 cents to your bill, or for those that can, you know, are better off, add $5 or $10. And then we can put that into what SFPUC calls it an angel fund. You put that into a separate fund that 100% of it goes to the customer assistance program.
Any and all ideas that you have that will
See, and
help
that is one
fund.
idea that we could talk about. that we
Yeah,
could, you know,
there
it's
were
a
some mixed
positive.
reviews of it when we first talked about it, because some people were like, oh, you're just pushing that cost, you know, that's why I was curious what your guys' thoughts on that would be, because you know, there were some differences of opinion on that. That's one idea. There are limited sources of funds that we can use to
Our
dedicate
hands
to
are
that.
tied.
I understand.
But yeah, absolutely. If there's, whether it's bolstering that program, but we're also doing a lot of advocacy and using this experience
I
that
don't
we're
know how
going
the
through right now.
demographics shake out. I mean, you got 13,000 meters out there, you know, I mean, what's considered low income? Is that 5-10%, 50? I don't know, but
The way
we need
that,
to find a way to help those folks. Is
agree, 100%. That's the
Yeah.
biggest concern.
the
right now.
impact on this is, you know, relatively more painful than say others, you know. I feel fortunate, not necessarily, I'm not in that camp yet, but I may be if this keeps at
Yeah.
the rate we're going, but,
Because-
Yeah.
anyway, that was just my comment.
No,
because-
I agree 100% that we've got to be focused on that
Yeah.
right now.
One of the things that I know you're working on, Cindy's idea, is on this wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, where
is Yeah.
it, Kelly?
Where is that? Where's that idea?
Ellie's a bit
Where's my
busy these
map?
days,
Because
but
that,
yes,
you know,
we
that-
would like to do that. Yeah, right.
I know you're gonna do it like on my last day as a board member, right?
It's on the list. It's
Yeah.
not currently
I'm
one of
messing
the
with-
highest
Because that
priorities.
brings it, you know, that attaches us, right? That attaches us to our customer base. Just a map.
I wanted a map, Francisco, that has, all the locations of, you know, our, maybe not so much the lift stations, but where our plants are, because I may be familiar with my area, but when you say, oh, Saddle Creek, I still don't know where Saddle Creek lift station or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? So I want to be able to go and say, oh, I get it now, and David continue talking.
It can't be that expensive.
It's more of a
That's
bandwidth
all.
issue.
Gotta
It's-
get it
it's-
up there.
It's on the list. It's just not on the high priority list right now. So we'll get there.
Privacy, thank you.
It's not that you're
It's
not a high
high
priority.
priority, is that what you said? A direct.
It's not a high priority.
It's not. high-
Well,
But anyhow, but that would help even customers.
I could show you the
see
list
how
of high
spread out
priority
they
items
are.
and you could tell me what to take off. How about that?
Okay.
But I agree, it would be great to have. We do want
Right.
to do that. Yeah.
I mean, we could even.
I don't
put it on
disagree
that
with you.
wall, but
Yeah.
those pictures are nice.
one thing
Kelly's working on it.
we'd love to do what is, TUD has, if you've been to the TUD's office, their lobby.
That
That
3D, if you will,
Really
kind
cool.
of.
It's actually a topographical model of
That's
Albany County and
awesome.
where their facilities are. So we'd love to have something like that,
Well,
but
that's wonderful, but how many?
yeah.
How many
We'll start
people?
with, we'll start with a. 2D
Yeah, how many
version.
people
Right.
come to our office?
You know, if we're looking at rate study, the last thing
Yeah.
we need to do is be adding more money to something, even though that's a really nice thing.
We'll find a cost-effective way to do it. but
Okay.
Yeah, as we always do.
That would be great.
Okay, do
We
we?
make it out of Legos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have
my
any
boys do it.
other, and I would open it up to Kelly Richards, listening
Yeah,
to what's been said. Do you have any comments? I mean, why not?
Or any staff, please.
Yeah.
Kelly?
Feel free
Yeah.
to add if I missed anything or screwed it up.
Because
because-
here's one of the guys that is representing us. Look,
No,
he even has a hat on.
I think the map would be great for a few different reasons. Like you said, to show how spread out we are and show how unique Calaveras County Water District is. There's no water district in this county like this. We have 40 square miles of service areas spread out over 1,000. All the other water districts that we compare to are consolidated little districts. And it was really important to us to show that in the presentations.
Mhm.
And you mentioned 20 minutes. With something of this magnitude and with these kinds of facilities, we can't capture that in 20 minutes. And we did try really hard to tell this story and the impacts it has. And I think for me, I completely understand the kind of impact it's having on the community. My mother had to move out of this area because of the costs. And I too am trying to leave my children with an infrastructure that's sustainable, that we don't have to pay for down the road. We will have to pay for this infrastructure at some point. It's a matter of when. So back to the map, which is what brought me up here, I think it'd be a really good thing to show. And I know we put a lot of effort into showing the intricacies of this water district because it's amazing to have the amount of facilities we have. The amount of treatment plants, the amount of pump stations to move this water up and down, enormous elevation gains. Wastewater, a collection system around a lake, around a drinking source lake, through a lake as
In a
well.
way, yeah.
And so it's not, when we compare to these other districts, it's not the same comparison. If you compare to a rural area like, when you compare to the urban areas like San Jose that has 11,000 plus customers per square mile, where we have 300, even less on our wastewater. And we would love to help all these customers. And we are actively looking into these programs, and it is near and dear to all of our hearts. It really is. Many of us, I have grown up in this community since I was born and raised. And this has been difficult. I'm also a ratepayer and will have the exact same challenges that everybody else has. And so I think I am speaking for most people in this organization that we truly do care about this process. And we truly care about our communities. This isn't something we're just trying to, when somebody says that we're trying to hurt our community, it breaks my heart, because that's the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah.
So,
We agree with that. We know that. We know that you guys don't do anything to hurt anybody out there. It's just that people with a very limited income are scared, and sometimes you'll have that one person will say, they're corrupt, and then now it starts spreading, but
yes, and I,
all we can do is hold our head up and try and explain the best we can to educate them and keep doing the good customer service.
and I saw that scaredness. I saw that and I felt it, and it didn't fall on deaf ears. And I did hear that a lot throughout the last few weeks, but again, it also makes me think about my children, who I'm trying to send off into this world with the same costs. They can't afford a house. My insurance has been dropped just like everybody else's, and that's been a challenge. And so here I am trying to raise children and send them off into this crazy world. And we're contemplating gifting them infrastructure that they'll need to take care of. So that's a concern. That's an interesting balance of the world we live in. And we need to try to succeed at that. And I think we can. And I think we're really trying to course correct the ship that we're on here with our infrastructure and the costs that we need to move forward with. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Uh-huh.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly.
Would anyone, Damon, are you standing up so you can come and dress us?
Oh, you don't have to.
Well, I just completely agree with Kelly. I think he said it very eloquently when he talked about what the impact is when I mean, we're human, so we pay attention to the social media conversations that are going on out there. We try not to, but invariably we end up catching wind of some of the things that are said. And when we contemplate, I think for me, when I think about the staff time, energy, and effort that was put into working to provide safe water and ensure that the sewage flowed away from all the homes during the atmospheric river storms, and the amount of hours folks worked in the office and out in the fields, and the dedication that we have, and then and then to walk into, to see folks walk into a room and there's just disdain and indignation on people's faces. For those people, it's really tough. And I'm not trying to diminish their fear, because I completely see it and I recognize it. And so one of the things that I always circle back to, and I think Francisco touched upon this really well in his comments, is we have to get people to understand kind of where we're at, where we're coming from, and why we're in such an impactful place negatively for the ratepayer potentially. It's really so we can truly provide a reliable system to everybody. And there are so many components to the system that are in dire need of replacement and rehabilitation, that it's really important that we take a big step right out of the gate in order to reduce the potential for failure. And because there's so many uncertainties now than there were in a lot of so one of my mentors coming up in the water world, and I started out as a treatment plant operator at the Jenny Lind water plant in 2005. I didn't know up from down. I was trained, I had a certification, and I knew that if I worked hard in this industry, that there's opportunity. Now I'm a director of operations, and I've been through a lot of natural disasters, a lot of FEMA declared emergencies, and my predecessor and my mentor from another utility had been through one. No wildfires, one FEMA declared disaster. I mean, we have 3, 4, and 5 now, it seems like, every year. And it's a measure of a lot of the impacts that we're facing. And I think it's really kind of been, the focus is even greater when you consider the impacts to all of our customers, not only from CCWD rate considerations, but also from the power, the cost for food, the cost for fuel, everything has gone up. And so I really think kind of rambling here, but getting back to my point about the points that Francisco made, is I really think that Michael and I have talked a lot about this. And Supervisor Huberty talked about this at the Arnold Town Hall. How do we get together as a community to provide solutions that aren't just water and wastewater based, but they're food, housing, fuel based, transportation based, and how do we work together as a community to provide help to those that are on fixed incomes, so they don't feel this sense of helplessness and hopelessness. And I think that's the next phase of our jobs. Not only are we water and wastewater administrators and managers and field workers and office staff, but we're also community advocates, and we need to really kind of bring everybody together and illustrate to both the state and the feds the impacts that we're all under. So you can tell I haven't really thought much about this kind of stuff as I lay in bed at night lately.
Yeah,
That's what my night was last night.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Anybody else want to share?
Yeah, if I can make a quick comment now.
Well, let me just make a comment. Francisco, 85 second or 666 Folsom?
666 Folsom and 85 second. I work in the local.
I started at 85 second.
So how did that take priority over mine?
Because I'm the chair of it.
This is my first in-person external relations. I would like to see this particular committee, be focused on policy creation when it comes to customer relations. But I'd like to see the format be like it is right now. We hear from them, we say something. We say something, they, it's this more of a town hall. Because if it's about customer relations and you have customer here, I don't think it should be just a public comment limited. It should be a dialogue between those sitting here and those sitting here. Because we can't make, board decisions per se. But if we are about customer relations, this is the format, in my opinion, how it should be. I mean, we obviously have to do the Brown Act stuff, but what's wrong with this back and forth? Now, when you have it all packed, it might be a little difficult and you could adjust accordingly. But it gives the ratepayer customer, the public, the opportunity to potentially be part of a solution before it gets to a bad situation
Yeah.
maybe. But if you could do that with this committee.
And
That'd be
one of the takeoffs of that format would be Fernando and other gentlemen going back to their communities and saying, hey, you know what?
This is
Yeah,
This is where you get your more
Uh-huh,
voice
uh-huh.
in this particular committee, not that you don't have one at the others, but they're so formal and structured, and yes, they have to be,
uh-huh.
but maybe this one shouldn't just be like that. Just saying. Bye, Damon. See you
Thanks,
later.
Damon.
Peace out. Have a great day.
Mhm.
Anyhow, so.
Okay, well,
where are we at?
now, so, we have any last comments on the, strategy, or Michael, you have your,
Yeah, like I said, we've got a couple of documents we're trying to push out as quickly as we can, and then a lot more follow-up. So we'll just keep
It
meeting every.
sounds to me, everybody got the messages, because there were several, and everybody's trying to do what we can.
yeah.
And, oh, I guess the last update is we'll be in West Point on Thursday.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
So we'll be at the
In fact, I'm gonna
farmers.
call Vicky, and it's not like we gotta make any plans, right? We're just showing up, or.
So
do we
one of
have
the,
to
that's
buy
one of the
a
big goals. We're hoping to get the slide deck done by tomorrow for the board meeting, but also to make sure we have literature available for people at that booth, because we're not gonna do the presentation.
I was gonna say, don't plan on a
Oh,
presentation.
no, we're not
I
planning a
think we're gonna have to
presentation.
Be out there and say, hi, I'm Cindy Cicada, I'm your representative. Do you know that we're potentially gonna increase your rates? And that's probably what I'll say, and they'll go, what?
Yeah, well,
Then I'll say, Michael, take it away. No.
and then but that's why we want to have that backup documentation there as well. So we want to have as much information, we want to have information on hand. We're not planning on doing a presentation.
You
But
know what, one of the questions that I'm gonna ask is follow-up, because you say that you've updated the questions, and, what kind of follow-up are you going to do to the?
Put out,
Yeah.
a piece of paper, so if they do have a question that we can't get to, have them write it down with their info, and we'll take it back. Have that there. for
Oh,
all
well,
time.
yeah, but,
But do we have to get a booth, or are we just gonna kind of mingle and bring our own chairs?
oh, you're talking about West
But
Point.
West
I
Point,
was,
Yeah.
West Point's town halls, I think I've been to one, but that was something years ago. I think like when I first got on the board and Jack put it together, it was more of a county
That was a
thing.
county one. Then
Yeah.
we did one, but nobody showed up.
Exactly. The person who let us in. So why have staffs go through all that? So we're showing up at the farmer's market, which I was told by a constituent there that it's very well attended. So we'll go there, and we're just gonna try and reach out and inform them the best we can. And then there's also that community dinner right afterwards. It's free, that's supposed to be well attended. And we can just play that by ear.
Sure.
Yeah, I
But
hope.
to your point, yeah, we're, anytime we get questions, we're responding to those questions. Like I said, we're trying to push out a bunch more information, because to the extent we can quell the amount of misinformation that's out there, all we can do is share facts and share the accurate information and hope that resonates with people. So we're going to push out as much of that as we can this week. And then we'll continue saying yes to every meeting request that we get.
oh, yeah, and, I brought my customer's number just to ask you if you have called Dennis.
I'm meeting with them this afternoon.
Dennis Foods? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we don't have to necessarily
No.
broadcast to everybody we're meeting with, because they may
Well,
not want
Well,
to
I just
be
gave his
mentioned in a
first
public
name.
meeting, but we're having a lot of those meetings. Yeah. And
I-
that's, and
I'm
that's
just
great.
kidding.
I appreciate
People to
people
get back to
taking the
work.
time to meet
Yeah.
with us and hear us
Okay.
out.
Did you have a comment? A question?
I would suggest perhaps considering putting out on next door a survey saying, hey, if we come up with a dashboard for you all to keep track of us, would you like to see?
Yeah. You know, we're getting great advice from somebody who's in this type of situation, you know, and knows how to communicate. I suggest that we heed a lot of his advice.
Well, and one of the things at Outgrowth has been the creation of a committee that is going to be CCWD, no.
Oh, gotcha
And the
now.
community,
Yeah, and partner agencies.
partnering
absolutely.
with,
You know,
An
almost
advisory
every
committee?
committee, yeah, almost every committee should have a member of the public. One member of the public that is part of that committee.
and what you
Wanna
need
get-
is,
You know, get
Commitment.
stake in the, you know.
yeah,
skin in the-
Cindy, what you need is commitment.
Mhm.
Mhm,
But that's okay, we could try.
mhm.
And when somebody complains, would you like to be that person?
Okay, I,
Francisco's the first one.
Yeah. well, we just don't want, okay, we, you know, discuss this a lot.
Let's-
And we don't want to forget, or we don't want to ignore Kelly Richards, who is on the agenda, who is going to give us a customer service update.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
That's what I need.
Good afternoon, directors. I really do have a fairly short presentation today. We've covered quite a bit, actually, of, you know, what customer service has been busy with over the past, you know, month or so. And as you can imagine, we've been, you know, largely in at the forefront, but then also a supportive role staff has for anything and everything involving rate study. So, you know, and I'm really proud of our staff in customer service, admin services, who, you know, have really stepped up to the plate over the last month, especially. Customer service is down a staff person. You know, so we are doing more with less at this point. And that's just, I would like to commend them for that. You know, we
Say that you guys do a good job. You have to step up, you do. Nothing else throughout the day, but I have seen that in a lot of different departments. So.
Right.
And certainly ours is not the only
you
one,
know, that's had to step up, and we recognize that.
But we, you know, as one of the smaller, you know, departments, we still have our normal day-to-day, you know, that we need to take care of. We have the interaction with the customer, which is our priority, obviously. And that has, you know, our numbers as far as phone numbers or calls and inquiries and emails. We've even had more walk-ins. So all of that has elevated over the last month, and we've obviously been trying to do our due diligence and communicating effectively with customers, answering questions, you know, relaying questions that maybe, you know, are a little more technical that we don't have the answer for, but making sure that they get passed along. So just want to commend the staff, you know, for those efforts.
Absolutely, because you are the first person that
Right.
the customer meets.
We are, along with field staff, some of, you know, the face
Right.
essentially of the district, or the voice of the district, I should say. And so, you know, it's really imperative to us on a day-to-day operational basis that we're, you know, efficient and we're, you know, timely in our communications and effective in our communications, and that it's consistent with any other messages that we're sending out, you know, through any other media. And, you know, so I did just want to keep my presentation today, you know, short and sweet. As you can imagine, a lot of what we're doing right now is customer outreach. Summer is our busy season, you know, for move-ins and move-outs and changes to customer accounts and whatnot. School was out, so a lot of people try to handle those things during the summer. We have been getting our billings out and working effectively with operations staff to do so. We're moving forward on the AMI project. We're getting towards the end of QCing data to be able to roll out that customer portal that we have mentioned, you know.
Everybody's waiting.
Yes.
payment section, right? Is there gonna be like a tutorial that they can, here's how you can use this particular feature? There is one, good.
Yes, so that'll be a part of the outreach efforts that we provide to the customer. Of course, rolling something like this out is monumental, but if you don't know how to use it, what good is it? So that's the whole mentality behind what our outreach will focus on, and we'll be pushing that out as many ways as we can, using as many, medias as we can in order to spread the word, because really the benefit of that portal is going to, it's going to pay dividends, over time, not only for us internally, but for the customers as well. They'll be able to
It's
have
like
that
what
data at their
PG&E
fingertips.
does. I use mine all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do on this portal a projected bill? Like
Yes.
PG&E does?
Yeah,
That would be
that's
helpful.
gonna be.
Yes, there are many options, and it's customizable. The customer customizes it for, how they want to receive data and what they want to receive. So, somebody would sign up for all the alerts on there, billing threshold alerts, usage alerts, estimating bills, those types of things. And maybe they do want a text message, an email, and a phone call. But some people may only want to receive a text message, and they may only want to receive it if there's abnormal consumption. So there's ways that you can customize it per customer, and that'll be
At a
phenomenal.
West Point thing Thursday, we might want to bring a few of those pamphlets if you have any on what the portal's gonna do. If they have.
Yeah, we can do that. We haven't, it's not live yet, so we don't want to push out too much. We can
Right.
Okay.
put a big coming soon.
Well, yeah,
there.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing out there is, because I don't think a lot of people will have internet access, I mentioned this several years ago, is that I think one of our computers that we sort of retired, if we could dedicate it like at a library, which they can use, and it only goes to CCWD website, not to go surf the web, but if you want to check your no-go, you don't think so?
I don't think you can limit it that way.
And they have computers at libraries that they can go to our website
Okay.
through there. So
Right. If one was dedicated, that was like, check your CCWD bill, pay your bill or whatever online.
We have one right here in our
Yeah,
lobby.
but go from West Point to here is a long drive.
I understand.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
understand.
keep going.
Yeah. But we do look forward to that. And obviously, customer service staff is working very closely with our website, staff on who's hosting our host, to make sure that we're working on that and getting it dialed in so that we can roll it out here shortly. So very exciting. We're looking forward to it, as well. And like I said, it's absolutely a benefit to the community, to our account holders, but it is a benefit to us as well. It's just more effective, timely communication and information. And we fully expect that customers are going to be calling in. We'll probably have an increase in that when we roll it out. People are going to want to familiarize themselves with it, answer questions. We'll be prepared for that.
Are you going to have a temporary addition to your staff?
we're working on recruitment for that position.
Uh-huh. Because, I'm sure that you're going to, your phone calls are going to increase and your.
They have.
Uh-huh.
And I've gone back to my roots a little bit as a CSR and been answering phone calls and in the trenches with the ladies. So we do what we need to do. And, and everybody does, and I think we've been effective in saying, just the amount that everybody has stepped up over the last, month or two, really, I think has been a testament to, our dedication to just making sure that we don't, that we continue what needs to be done. And it's really been a really good collaboration. I think a lot of times with customer service, we're there for the customer and there's a lot going on around us and we don't necessarily have the interaction on a regular basis with a lot of other departments. And we've been able to do that over the last couple months. So that's been a success story in my opinion. But we have obviously been moving forward on CAP program enrollment. And I know that some of what we do in customer service coincides with finance and we report on these things to finance committee as well.
but I have been asked to provide a little bit of information on where we are with CAP because it is facilitated by customer service staff. So we just went through renewals. We do that every April and May timeframe. And then usually when we go through that process, it frees up some spots within the program. And so right now we do have availability in both the water and sewer
Oh,
assistance.
which are available.
So I can tell you right now for water, we have 141 spots taken out of 237.
That's a lot.
And we
Okay.
have 86 spots taken out of 175 for sewer.
Let's do a press release on that.
Okay.
Oh, that's a great.
And we have already, since we've gone through the renewal process, we've already received another 29 applications, but they're in review, they're in being processed. So I don't know if these are water and sewer or just sewer. So, but we still have availability and we're still taking applications.
Take by the time you receive the application till they can start getting their discount.
So once we have vetted, because there are parameters involving, the criteria in order to be a part of the program. Once we check the information that they provide us, we're very timely in applying it to the account.
Give me a day, give me a number.
I would say
Just a few.
48 to 72 hours from the time that it's submitted.
And then
We try to be very prompt.
Well, I mean, I would hate to say, oh, it could take 6 weeks when people are probably really needing any help they can.
Well, and I can tell you typically what we do is we're able to process it very timely. It typically takes effect for the next full billing cycle, just to clarify. So, there's no way for us, unfortunately, to prorate it.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
So by the time they apply, within a few days, they will know in the next billing cycle. That's it.
yes, our staff is very prompt. That's something that we recognize as a very important program. And so we try to be very timely in our processing and response on that.
Very good.
So just a little bit about CAP and then LIWAP. I always speak of, to LIWAP, in this presentation, and then
The acronym.
it's Low Income Household Water Assistance Program. Sorry, I know we're big on acronyms. But it is a one-time assistance that folks can apply for, and it's actually for current or overdue residential utility bills. And so there's a certain set of criteria that they go through ADCA, which is Amador Tuolumne Community Action Agency. Did I get that right? That's a lot.
You missed another one in there.
Right.
Anyhow.
So they reach out to ADCA. ADCA facilitates the approval for the program. Their folks reach out to us for the utility bills or the status of the applicant's account. And then if they are approved, we are set up through the state to receive those funds directly and we apply them to the customer account. And so the program kicked off in June of last year. And since then, about 53 people have benefited from about $45,000 worth of assistance. This
Some of those information for West Point Thursday.
we got them.
Those, thank you.
The program is still active. They were able to extend it. They still have funding. The program will be active through the end of the year or until funding runs out if that happens prior to December 31st. So we are still sharing this information with customers when they call in, and we still have the information available in our lobby and
Do you have
online.
any stats by district? How many recipients we have? And
I haven't broken it down by district, no.
because, of course,
I'd like
we
to
would,
know that.
huh?
I'd like to know that. 'Cause I'm always
Yeah,
when my
That would be
district
an
is-
interesting.
It'd be funny if it wasn't.
Is that just for the LIWAP, just for LIWAP assistance or
You know,
for
no,
CAP
for-
assistance for both? Okay,
Just say District 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever.
okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Oh, okay, that would be great. Yeah,
I'd like to
that's
know
another
because-
piece of information
Yeah.
that we could
Yeah,
share.
because I could be totally wrong sometimes.
Not a problem. And then just the other thing I wanted to touch on that I'm really excited about that I've touched on it before, but since, this is dealing with external relations and we're always looking at new and better, efficient ways to communicate with our customers.
we've been really successful in working with operations specifically and just recently engineering with notifications going out for shutdowns and, planned project type work. And so we've been utilizing our notification option through our billing platform to be able to notify customers via text or phone call that there is an emergency shutdown in their area or a planned shutdown in their area. And so I would just like to commend staff on those efforts as well, and that we've been successful on several notification
And
campaigns.
on those notifications, like for shut-offs and stuff, I
Mhm.
imagine those are tracked, so you know how many times and what dates they were issued.
Yes, there's an auditing mechanism within the system, and it notes the
would
customer's
be
accounts.
Kind of a
Mhm.
cool thing, like in Damon's report, we've, in the last quarter, we've notified, like emergency shut-off would be interesting.
Right.
One of the reasons why I say that is my property in Texas. I swear I get 3 of those. Oh, emergency shut off. You have no water. And it's like, really, I'm texting. Good thing it's
Right.
there.
Right. Well, and it's
Just
just,
curious, and then you can
right.
identify where it is, so you can determine that needs service first.
Well, and secondary to this, and one of the efforts that, obviously once the dust settles a little bit, 'cause we're all kind of running on all cylinders right now. But once the dust settles, I think one of the more important things that customer service would like to work with our internal public relations team on is trying to move forward with some sort of campaign to engage customers to update their contact information with us and make sure that whatever phone numbers or emails we have on file are truly the most up to date and the best way to get a hold of them, because these notifications then, again, are only as successful as our information is
Right.
accurate. So
Remember, that was very key, under, when we did PSPS,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
was the
It was,
customer,
yeah, and
the
for some of
customer
the-
base. Right.
PG&E has, as soon as you log in, it's like, update, how do we get a
I
hold
think
of
the
you? We should do
customer
that.
portal will help us with.
Right, yeah.
We can then prompt people to make sure they're
Yeah, and emergency.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really just pushing out to the customer. And again, like we've stated here and heard from, our customers, and I am one of them as well, since we're disclosing. I know how I like to receive information, and being in customer service, I see that there are many different ways that we can share information. And I think it's just being diligent on all fronts and really, really trying to share information, be meaningful about it and not just, blast it out, but really consider our audience and maybe some of the challenges that people have in accessing certain digital or social medias, print media, when we're sending out newsletters, inserts and bills, those all come with a cost. And so I think when we're looking at ways to communicate, posting on a Facebook or an Instagram or a Twitter or something like that does not cost us really anything. And it's an easy way to just get information out there, but
It doesn't
necessarily reach
complete
everybody.
the
And
picture.
right. And so I think when we're talking about, making sure that we have updated information in the system and expressing that effectively to the customer, the benefits of that, I think it would be, a successful campaign to roll that out. And
Here's an option, as board members that sit up here, we all have our own district. Perhaps at every meeting, you say, here's a new campaign. You have 5 places to go post it in your district and put it on us. I mean, I would do it.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, but, a lot of
Yeah,
us
but-
do it anyway.
use us as a tool as well.
In fact,
absolutely.
I was glad to see the color of your outfit today, Director Underhill, because she was literally stopping cars to give them the flyer to come to the community. meeting.
Where were you
So
fixing?
we were joking about giving her some high vis and some safety.
Right. Safety first.
And anyhow, I mean, just
But-
like, if you guys, have an opportunity, put it out there, because I would make it a point to go do it.
Right. So but those are a lot of the things that customer service has been working on. And again, we're just constantly reevaluating and looking at what it is that we're doing up there. And
again, looking at industry benchmarks for customer service and evaluating our processes and procedures and just always trying to get better up there. So we welcome any and all feedback. There's always room to grow, even if we're, a little behind the 8 ball as far as staffing goes right now. We're still gonna work through it and we'll get there. But, we welcome any feedback from.
They're like, okay, we gotta get back.
Right. So, that's it for my update today.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Did you have a question for her?
Yes. By mobile devices, I know that. these are
Oh,
mobile,
that would be good.
But getting it so that it fits and it's not like, I gotta scold.
Right. So that is what we're working with the company that's hosting our portal. There will be a web version and then a mobile version. And so we recognize, obviously, this portal will be, very widely used by folks who are secondary homeowners in the area, and they may not be here, or they'll be, you're out and about, you get a notification, you want to know what it is. So yes, absolutely.
I agree. Yeah.
Whew.
A lot
Okay.
of great information that I love the dialogue that's going on here. I'm so thankful public's here too, and staff saying stuff.
General manager,
Well,
do you have any comments left?
we have a board meeting tomorrow, so I won't make many comments. And you'll probably hear me say this again tomorrow, and Kelly touched on it a little bit. I just can't say enough about how our team has come together in under pretty challenging circumstances. I think you learn a lot about the strength of your team when you're under pressure. And we have as strong of a team as we've had in my time here, and it's just been phenomenal to see everybody step up regardless of what department or job description or whatever it might be. It's just been really,
That
really
makes a great
phenomenal.
team.
So
Nobody's above doing anything.
can't say enough about our team. So other than that, we'll be back here tomorrow. So
See you then.
I'll say
Okay.
comments.
Director, comments.
Like I said, I love the format, the way it's been going with everybody saying, and I would love to see this committee have it that way whenever possible.
Because you're right, Cindy, it certainly makes sense.
Yeah,
It
I
makes
mean, it's
sense.
about external relations.
Uh-huh.
And then I think you guys heard everything else, yeah, okay, I'm good.
Okay, well, quiet up the hill. In case you want to be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, the weather has been weird.
that's so weird.
I wake up to rain middle of the night, ever since I've been home.
Huh?
I didn't have any rain in Oregon. That's usually where you get it, right? Oregon was beautiful.
Okay, next committee meeting is September the 26th at 1:00.
All right.
Meeting adjourned.
Good job, you guys. And you too, members of the public. Thank you.
And you know where we are.
Cicada, yes. You can, I know it's supposed to be cicada and